Hello everyone, welcome back to the Very Cold Lasagna podcast, your place for all those filthy casual takes on the world of sports. I am your host, DylanLasagna, and this is the 200th episode of this icy yet spicy sports podcast that is Very Cold Lasagna. And in this episode, well actually, before we get to the topic at hand of this episode and what exactly that is, I just want to say thank you. I want to provide a big thank you to all the people that have joined me along in this journey, getting to 200 episodes. And I'm actually surprised myself that we've gotten to another 100 episodes. After the 100th episode in, I think 2 years ago, we've gotten to that point. But nonetheless, I just want to say thank you. Whether you have joined me along this journey from the very start in 2021 in January, or you've just joined recently with the most recent episode or a couple episodes ago. Regardless, I just want to say thank you to all the people that joined me along for this journey. I know it's still a small batch of you, but nonetheless, your support still means the world to me. And let's continue to build up a community together and make this fridge even larger, even colder, even a little spicier as well. With all your filthy casual takes, whether you're a casual, middle of the road, or a hardcore fan, we welcome everyone in this very, very cold fridge with this very cold lasagna. Of course, I recommend you not eating an actual very cold lasagna because that's gross. But nonetheless, let's keep spreading the good, the bad, the ugly very cold lasagna. And you could do so by following Very Cold Lasagna on social media, on X and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. And if you're listening to this on audio, make sure you rate and review the show, whether it be on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That where Very Cold Lasagna is in an audio format. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you smash the like button, smash the subscribe button if you're not subscribed already, and leave a comment. Leave a comment with your own takes on each and every episode regarding the specific topic at hand, including this one as well, with your own take on this topic that I'm about to mention. And share this with your friends. Share this with your neighbors. Share this with a stranger. Share this with your colleague, whether it's at school or at work. Spread the good, the bad, the ugly about my takes on wrestling or the NFL or on the very rare occasion, whatever other sport that I talk about here on this podcast known as Very Cold Lasagna. That being said, once again, thank you for 200 episodes, and let's create however many more episodes more. So now, for this 200 episode, we're going to go right back into the old icebox because it's been kind of a slow period, and I do apologize for that. But a little bit of an announcement of sorts before we get that ball rolling. NFL season preview month is coming up, so for those still wondering about those constant retro reviews for these last couple of episodes, especially the audio listeners out there, don't worry. NFL season preview month is coming up, so we're going to get right back into the swing of things with the NFL. So till then, it's still kind of a slow period with trying to get by with like the NFL offseason and not a whole lot going on in the wrestling world. And speaking of which, going back 20 years ago, in the year of 2004, that's kind of how it felt with the world of wrestling after WrestleMania and after Backlash 2004. I've already done those two shows, but when we talk about this show, which is the topic at hand, and it was this one, it felt like a little bit of a lull period, a little bit of a drag. And that show that we're going to be talking about in this retro review, this show was WWE Bad Blood 2004. When you look at it, it seems like an okay, decent card on hand, but when you go back, if you ever go back and watch it yourself, you see a lot of flaws. You see a lot of flaws in this, especially during a time when, like as I said, with my Backlash review, my WrestleMania review, my No Way Out review, pretty much my retro reviews of 2004 that I've done this year. The brand split was still in effect at this time, and it was during in the earlier retro reviews that I've done with WWE in the year 2004. At least during that time, the roster the roster, the brand split, it was still kind of a little strong with still a little bit of star power. But when you get to this point in time with this pay-per-view, a little bit as we get into the actual review itself, the roster was starting to get a little depleted with star power, and it started to show a little bit in that Backlash review that I talked about a little bit over a month ago. That being said, let's talk about a little bit about the show itself. So this third annual Backlash pay-per-view, yes, it was the third one that took place on June 13th, 2004, on this date, at the Nationwide Arena in Columbus, Ohio. So for all you hockey fanatics out there, it's the home of your Columbus Blue Jackets. So yeah, they took place in Columbus, Ohio. A little bit of a fun fact side note, the Bad Blood event, this is the second one under its own original name. So the first one was actually held under the branding of In Your House. So that was under the WWF branding name, where Bad Blood, it was like during the time of, the New Generation era, where WWF would experiment with monthly pay-per-views during that frame of, I believe it was like late 1995 to early spring 1999. So they would have all these monthly pay-per-view series, and then be like In Your House, Beware of Dog, In Your House, D-Generation X. Bad Blood in 1997 of October was kind of like that. So they bring back Bad Blood in 2003, and as with it was the following year, the 2004 edition would be headlined by a signature stable match. We'll talk more about that later. So this is a Raw exclusive event. SmackDown the previous month got Judgment Day, and then a couple weeks later after this event, it would get the Great American Bash. So they would be rotating as per the brand split, as I talked about in my previous retro reviews. It'd be getting brand-specific events that would be rotating here and there every month. So that being said, let's talk about the match card itself. We start off the show with a little bit of a pre-show that you're watching on MTV, or was it on TNN? If I remember from my retro reviews. So you're probably watching on TV, whether it's on MTV or TNN, and you see Sunday Night Heat. You're trying to get ready for the show, but you realize that, oh no, I don't have any. I need to call my cable provider. I need some money. I need to call Mama, Dada, and there's a pre-show match with Batista and Maven. So that's your pre-show match. And as you're scrambling for your credit card, or the lack thereof, Batista easily takes care of Maven in less than 4 minutes and disposes him with the Batista bomb. So not really a whole lot of action in this one. It's basically a warm-up match to try and get the Columbus crowd a little bit excited, but it was clear that they're still trying to file in, and this is basically a squash match for Batista. Maven, yes, he was basically a jobber by this at this point, if he wasn't even more of already. But I mean, Maven has a cool YouTube channel by now, so he has some interesting insights. He seems like a pretty chill dude that's grateful for his time in WWE, despite him being a jobber essentially. So Batista easily takes care of Maven in less than 4 minutes, and yeah, so you just basically take care of that match, and you're still realizing, oh, there's less than 5 minutes to go in the show, and I can't find the number to call my cable provider, and oh shit, the show started, and now I'm gonna miss it because, well, no credit card, no money, no, the cable provider won't get back with me. So we get to the main card. We get to the opening match of the show, and involved the World Tag Team Champions La Resistance defending their titles against Chris Benoit and Edge. These two teams have been feuding with each other since Benoit and Edge had won the World Tag Team titles the night after Backlash, And in between the time during before this pay-per-view, La Resistance, Sylvian Greener, and Rob, I forgot. It's not Rob Reiner, but it was like, it wasn't Rob. Oh, Rob Conway. There we go. I remember the name now. So they won the title from Edge and Benoit. So now Greener actually won it in his hometown of Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And a rematch was made for this pay-per-view. But the catch was, for Benoit, this was actually the first of 2 matches at this event that he would be competing in. So that second other match, which involved the World Heavyweight Championship, because remember, during this time that Benoit was also still the World Heavyweight Champion. We'll get to more about that in a bit. So for this match itself, I mean, it was a very paint-by-the-numbers opener. I mean, Edge, he started off the match, but he took most of the punishment from La Resistance because, remember, Benoit had another match later on in the night. So I guess they were trying to protect him from so much punishment. They didn't want him doing all that diving headbutt stuff. And yeah, just basically trying to give him a little bit of ease for later in the night. So Benoit does come in for their hot tag, and he goes on fire. But then towards the end of the match, there's a little bit of dissension there between Benoit and Edge because Benoit almost gets speared by Edge, but Edge stops in his track just in time. And the two, they were poised to still win the titles anyway. Edge spears Sylvian Griner, and Benoit locks in the Cripper crossface on Rob Conway. But Kane comes in to chokeslam both Edge and Benoit to cause a disqualification. So why do I mention Kane? Well, because Kane is the guy that's going to be facing Benoit for the World Heavyweight Championship later on that night. So, I mean, it was a little uncommon for no disqualification finishes to occur during this portion of WWE's Ruthless Aggression era, like on pay-per-view. But I mean, in this context, as Benoit also had another match, I mean, I guess it made a little bit of sense, and gave Kane some advantage because, well, I chokeslammed you again. Why do I say again? More than as we talk about their match later on in this retro review. So Edge and Benoit, they had a decent opener with La Resistance. They win the match, but not the titles because, well, the titles can't change hands on a DQ finish. So, decent opener, but nothing to write home about. And then for your second match, you had Chris Jericho take on Tyson Tomko. Christian and Chris Jericho were still feuding with each other after Backlash, like a month and a half prior. And the night after Backlash, Christian beat Chris Jericho in a rematch after a guy named Tyson Tomko, yes, that guy I mentioned earlier, he attacked Jericho and repeatedly did so in the following weeks. Christian and Trish Stratus referred to him as their problem solver. So essentially, he was their enforcer, basically. So Christian, like I mentioned in my retro review of WrestleMania and Backlash, Christian was injured in a steel cage match with Jericho. So Christian's out for 4 months, and Tomko continued the feud with Y2J by putting him through an announce table a few weeks before Bad Blood. And Eric Bischoff decides to schedule a match between these two. Yeah, so a guy that we don't really know a whole lot about. He's just an enforcer for Trish and Christian. He basically has to carry this feud. Like Jericho, Tomko, Stratus, they basically got to carry this feud. A feud that's basically around Jericho, Trish, and Christian. Like, and one of the main key players is out with injury. Gee, where have I heard this modern story before? Like 20 years later. There's actually 2 of them. So anyway, this match was, I'm not going to lie to you, it was kind of boring. I really don't have a lot to say on this one. And this is where, like, this show started to go a little bit downhill. And this is only the second match, to be honest with you. So pretty much, Tyson Tomko was one of those heels that, like he's big and muscular, but man, was he so boring. Was he so boring in the ring? But maybe like I haven't watched a lot of Tyson Tomko, like at all. This is like one of those very few instances like that I saw him for the first time, because basically in this match, Jericho was trying to get so much offense in, but Tomko was unaffected by it. So this is a match that showcased Tomko as this powerful enforcer, but he is like almost like the height of Jericho. So I'm like, okay, this is kind of like, It's like, it is kind of bland. This is kind of bland. So anyway, the Columbus crowd was like not buying into this match, other than being red hot for Jericho. Jericho did try to go for the walls of Jericho on Tomko, but Trish Stratus got up on the ring apron to distract him. And then the finish saw Tomko try to run up on Jericho, but accidentally instead hit Trish Stratus off the apron. And then Jericho won with an enziguri. Yeah, that was Jericho's finisher. Like in 2004, he won it. He used it against Christian twice, and then he used it here. Like, man, I guess he really didn't have the code breaker in effect 3 years later. Like, he really didn't come up with anything intuitive. So anyway, yeah, not a good match. Like, not really a good match that piqued my interest. And this show was not off to a good start. I'm not gonna lie. For the first half hour of this show, I was pretty bored. Like, I was pretty bored. Like, again, the opener was not bad, but not exciting. And this second match really, this is kind of starting to go downhill from here. But this third match right here, though, it kind of woke me up a little. That was the Intercontinental Champion Randy Orton defending his title against Shelton Benjamin. Shelton Benjamin, the new kid on the block, he was on this winning streak against members of Evolution. He had that upset victory over Triple H as soon as he got over to Raw. Then he beat Ric Flair in that match in Backlash. And now he had challenged Randy Orton to an Intercontinental title match, whether as at Raw or at Bad Blood. But Randy Orton denied him of that. So Shelton starts up a feud with Randy Orton by attacking him. And then Benjamin and Randy Orton have this tag team match, and Benjamin pins him in that tag team match, leading to Benjamin getting an Intercontinental Championship match at Bad Blood. So for this match, Randy Orton, like, he was interviewed backstage about being a living legend, something that Shelton Benjamin will never be. That was his words. But he took great offense from the Columbus fans booing him, and he went out there to go out to the crowd, berate them, and he said, later on the night, I'm going to show you why I'm a living legend and still be your Intercontinental Champion. But then Shelton Benjamin came out to push their title match to right now, rather than later in the night. So referee came out, and then that's when the match began. And I gotta say, for a 15-minute affair that showcased Shelton Benjamin's athleticism and why he was getting such a big push during this time, this was pretty fun. Orton matched it with his own wrestling ability, his fast-paced ability. These two had a pretty fun affair, especially in the last 2 minutes of this match, where Benjamin seemingly winning the match with the T-bone suplex onto Randy Orton, but then you had Ric Flair later coming out in the match to put Orton's foot on the rope, and then the referee was like, no, Benjamin, you didn't win that match. You didn't win there, pal. But then you have Benjamin beating up Randy Orton and Ric Flair, and then Ric Flair got locked into his own figure four by Benjamin, and then I'm not sure the crowd was wooing or they were booing Shelton Benjamin. It might have been booing, because I heard some boos there for Benjamin, which is kind of fucked up considering he's the babyface. And then he even used the fruit roll-up on Randy Orton while having the figure four still locked in onto Ric Flair for a near fall. That was a almost near great finish there. But then Randy Orton would end up keeping his title with his own deadly fruit roll-up with a flavor of the pull on Benjamin's red tights. So this was a very fun match. Like, this is finally the match that got me a a little bit intrigued for the rest of the show to certainly wake me up. And at that time, wake up the fans because, well, the first two matches so far were kind of duds. And at that time, it also protected both men during the big pushes. Randy Orton, it's a dirty win. And Benjamin, he, even though he lost, he put on another good performance, and he lost in a dirty way. So it kept both of their pushes going for the rest of the year. And Randy Orton, again, certainly had bigger plans far and ahead of him. But for now, Randy Orton and Shelton Benjamin had a nice match, as Randy Orton would win with the dirty fruit roll-up. Next up, we had the WWE Women's Champion Victoria take on Trish Stratus, Lita, and Gail Kim. Not a whole lot to discuss in this particular matchup because it was a fairly quick clusterfuck between the four ladies, and the crowd was pretty much into Trish, Lita, and Victoria. Sorry, Gail Kim. The crowd was just not really into you right now. But anyway, not a whole lot in this matchup because it was less than 5 minutes for this one, because Trish's enforcer Tyson Tomko, he stopped Lita from winning this title halfway through, and referee Mike Chioda ejected Tomko from the matchup. And then right as soon as Tomko got ejected, the finish, you had it right then and there. Lita hit a hard DDT onto Gail Kim, but then Trish Stratus swooped in and pinned Lita using another deadly fruit roll-up for the 1-2-3 and win the match. And also with the tights, with the pants. So interestingly, you had two straight matches end with the deadly fruit roll-up with a flavor of the tights, or in this case with Trish, with Lita's pants. So Trish Stratus won her record-breaking at the time 5th WWE Women's Championship. It was kind of a strange time for the WWE Women's division. I mean, certainly with, the Ree crowd would go all over today, but it was a strange time because, Trish Stratus had again won a 5th women's title, and I don't think she would defend it all that much afterwards because of an injury. And well, the women's division was not great at all during this point in time. So they were severely lacking in that area. So nothing really to write home about in this one. And Trish Stratus was your WWE Women's Champion and dethroning Victoria. I mean, it was kind of weird. Victoria was actually not bad as Women's Champion during that time. It was just like, but they gave the belt on Trish. Oh well. So our next matchup involved Eugene taking on Jonathan Coachman. This is a match on pay-per-view. If you didn't get enough Jonathan Coachman in the Backlash retro review, well, here you are now, except now Eugene has a match. Eugene has a match with Jonathan Coachman. So we had about a month and a half build of, trying to establish Eugene. If in case you don't remember, I remember talking about how Eugene was like a very controversial character. Seems like a nice guy in real life. But the character Eugene, like on WTV, was kind of controversial to some people because, it was like a 50-50. It was kind of like a weird portrayal, in my opinion, of people with disabilities. Now, don't get me wrong. It was interesting in some areas, but then in other areas, it's like, I'm not sure about that, pal, in 2024, if it was portrayed in this year. But in 2004, it was certainly something. I'm not sure if that would be the right portrayal. But anyway, as for this matchup, Eric Bischoff's nephew, Eugene, nephew with a disability, has been living his dream as a WWE wrestler, but obviously to the dismay of both Bischoff and his associate Jonathan Coachman. So to set this match up, Coachman, he was jealous of Eugene making all these friends in the locker room and with the fans. So he decided to, I'm gonna be friends with Eugene. So he said, "Oh, I see how it is now. I seen the light," and he decided, "I want to be your friend, Eugene." But then he faked Eugene out. He attacked him before he got his ass whooped by Kane on Raw, and that's how we got this match here. So, I mean, with this match itself between Jonathan Coachman and Eugene, I mean, it had its funny moment. I admit, it had its funny moments. Like Eugene riding on Coach like a horsey, and then Eugene peeing on Coach like a dog, or doing that fire hydrant exercise, as well as the the lady with the cookies. Like, can you give me some cookies too? And Coach bringing the lady with the cookies, and then like Coach and Eugene enjoying some cookies. I wonder if you can give me some cookies too. But no, seriously. The cookies aside, if you know what I mean. The Columbus crowd, I'll give them that. They were into Eugene. Eugene was over with the crowd. I just, I just don't know how I feel about the Eugene character, though. It's kind of a weird portrayal of people with disabilities, like, especially if you did that now in 2024. But I mean, at the time, it's just like, at least it was a game. I don't know if it was right to get it over, But anyway, Eugene went on to win the match after botched interference from Garrison Cade, who Eugene hit the rock bottom and the people's elbow onto Jonathan Coachman for the win. Oh yeah, I forgot. Like weeks prior, The Rock came back for like a surprise appearance in San Diego, and then there's a funny moment like, I think it was The Rock. The Rock asked him who his favorite wrestler was, and then right there, it could have been The Rock. He could have said The Rock, but then he mentions Triple H. I'm like, dude, like, I get it. It's your gimmick, but it's like, that's stupid. But anyway, I think it was obviously to set up that feud later on in the summer between those two. Not between The Rock and Eugene, but the Game and Eugene. But anyway, later on, he gave the Stone Cold Stunner to both Jonathan Coachman and Garrison Cade. William Regal, who was banned from being in Eugene's corner during the match, he came back out to celebrate with Eugene, and yeah, that's pretty much how this match ended. So, yeah, we're like through most of the show, and I gotta say, it's been very, very lackluster. It's been aside from the Intercontinental Championship match, this is probably the worst. This is probably like the worst show so far that I reviewed in the 2004 catalog. Let's see. We have 2 more matches to go. And those are the main event matches, starting with the World Heavyweight Champion Chris Benoit in his second match of the night, defending his title against the Big Red Machine, Kane. So going back to my original point of Kane, why was he there, interfering against in Chris Benoit and Edge's World Tag Team title match? So Kane, the reason why he was there was because, well, he won a number 1 contenders battle royale a month prior to earn a championship match against Chris Benoit at this pay-per-view, Bad Blood. So he cuts this promo a week later saying he envies of Benoit being the World Heavyweight Champion, living his dream of being the top guy in the WWE. So while Benoit lives dreams, Kane creates nightmares. So he wants to create the nightmare of Benoit losing his championship, and Kane wants to win his title. So 6 days prior to Bad Blood, Kane would actually pin Benoit in a tag team handicap match that also involved Edge and La Resistance. So it gave viewers, some doubt on the World Heavyweight Champion going into the pay-per-view. And as I noted earlier, Kane attacked Benoit earlier in the night during that tag team title match with Edge and La Resistance to try to give Kane a little bit of an upper hand for this matchup. So with this match, I had some initial thoughts. I actually had to rewatch it twice because on my first watch, I thought this match was kind of a chore to get through. It started off very slow, because there wasn't a lot going on, just like with, well, pretty much most of the show. And that was until the last few minutes of this match. But then I decided, you know what, maybe I was a little too harsh. So I decided to go watch it a second time, and this match is actually a little bit solid. This actually was very decent. A very decent battle of David versus Goliath, and the underdog versus the favorite. Because when you look at this match, Chris Benoit, the World Heavyweight Champion, clearly the underdog in this. You know, the technician in this match, he spent a lot of it trying to lock Kane down with his various submission moves, including trying to get that crossface on him. But Kane, being that big red monster that he's always been, he pretty much dominated with his strength, his size, and he pretty much pounced on Benoit every chance he got. When Benoit tried to counter or tried to rally for a comeback. So a large chunk of this match was Kane beating the crap out of Benoit. Benoit did manage to finally rally after countering Kane's first chokeslam attempt. So Benoit spent I think it was the back half of this match going after Kane's legs, and then he did lock in a sharpshooter, but then Kane crawled out of that for a rope break. And then Benoit did do his signature German suplex trifecta twice on him, and then he did the diving headbutt. But then after that was a near fall. Kane did hit a choke slam for a near fall of his own, and Kane was like, "What the fuck, man? This was supposed to put him away." So Kane decided to go for a choke slam. Not a choke slam, a tombstone pile driver. But Benoit escaped out of that, and Kane knocks him down with a big boot and decides to go for the flying clothesline. But then Benoit finally reverses that and locks in the Crippler crossface. So Kane powers out of that. And when he tries to power out of a second crossface attempt by Benoit, try saying that a million times, Benoit decides to, if I can't lock in the Crippler crossface, let's try something else. So he does try something else, and that something else is, well, something that we've seen all throughout the night. The deadly fruit roll-up. Not just any kind of roll-up. The deadly Oklahoma fruit roll-up. Like going over Kane's body to roll up Kane over his shoulders and retain the World Heavyweight Championship. So, yeah, it's not often I have to rewatch a match a second time right after the first watch, because, yeah, my opinion changed on this. Not very much, but a little, because, like I said, I was pretty harsh on this match when I first watched it. Like I said, it took a while for this match to get going, but after a second watch, after I watched it a second time, I understood what they were going for. I thought they really worked their strengths of Kane being that dominant monster against Benoit, the technician champion that had to overcome Kane, and I thought it paid off for a very decent showing. I get Benoit wasn't the most exciting champion at the time, especially as WrestleMania the WrestleMania rub wore off, but people were still kind of into him, and also got the crowd into it those last couple of minutes with that sequence of Benoit trying to knock Kane down, finally getting that crossface in, and then getting that victory to overcome Kane. So, yeah, it also, like I said, getting the crowd back into it was key, because those after what they had seen with much of the card prior, they're ready to go home. Like, they were seriously ready to go home. They were like, they had enough. Like, they had enough with the bull crap. So, at least for this match, this match kept their butts in the seats. As well as for mine, because I was ready to shut it off. I was ready to exit that tab, and scrap this retro review, because man, this show was a chore. This show has been it's not been good. Aside from these two matches, I gotta give it that. These two matches have saved the show. This has saved the show. But there's one more match that that we have to talk about. And for 20 years, this match has been the talk of the show. This match has been the main, I don't know if I say the main reason for why people talk about Bad Blood 2004, but it's the one that gains the most spotlight. And I don't know whether for good reason or for bad reason. Well, I'll let you all be the judge for it. And that is the main event. Triple H versus Shawn Michaels inside of Hell in a Cell. This was going to be the latest and final chapter of this long 2-year rivalry that began on that fateful July 2002 night where Triple H teased that DX reunion with Shawn Michaels. But then you know what happened from there. That big floating pedigree onto Shawn Michaels from Triple H. But this latest chapter in that long rivalry began on the May 3rd episode of Raw, where Triple H helped Chris Benoit retain the World Heavyweight title by attacking Shawn Michaels, who was Benoit's opponent. So in retaliation, Michaels attacked Triple H during his match with Shelton Benjamin the following week and cost him the previously mentioned number 1 contenders battle royale the week after. So Michaels doesn't become World Heavyweight Champion, and Triple H doesn't become World Heavyweight Champion. So things came to a major head. The following week, Triple H and HBK get into multiple brawls throughout the show, and it made its way into the ring. And General Manager Eric Bischoff, he's seen enough. Despite all the security that has come and tried to separate them, it's not enough to keep them contained. And Eric Bischoff has had enough. He comes into the ring all furious and pissed, and he angrily screams, "I have had enough. I'm gonna lock you two inside Hell in a Cell." So that match gets scheduled at Bad Blood, and this 2-year long rivalry built off that betrayal by Triple H and all the battles that came ahead afterwards, from SummerSlam, Elimination Chamber, Armageddon, and then their counter at the Royal Rumble in 2004, and then the triple threat encounters with Benoit at WrestleMania. They were all going to come to a close in one of the most dangerous structures in WWE, Hell in a Cell. So personally in my life, with this match, I mean, I've seen it, I've heard it, but I've only seen it through highlight reels on YouTube, and then later in my life, social media clips, and then I played it in the WWE 2K15 showcase mode, which was the final match of that mode. Spoiler alert, if you've never played it in your life. So I am familiar with this match, but I have never played it. I have never played it. I have never watched it in full. I have never watched this particular match fully. And going into it with what I watched with SummerSlam, what I've watched with the Royal Rumble, and then what I watched with Survivor Series and Armageddon, I had expectations. I had some expectations going into it, hoping it was going to be as intense, as good as I remember, at least what I remember from the clips, and as intense as the last several encounters between Triple H and Shawn Michaels were, because this was like an intense rivalry that was, after I think it was Armageddon 2002, it was kind of on and off. It was kind of on and off, but they kept running into each other in the year 2003, and then it really came to a head in 2004. So I had some expectations going into it, thinking I'm really hoping that Triple H and Shawn Michaels have a very intense Hell in a Cell encounter. And I know some people are saying, consider the match time. Consider the match time. Even if it's not in the actual comments, but I know ingrained in my head. I'm aware of the match time as well. But I gotta say, if the match quality is good, if the match quality is there, it'll deliver. It will deliver. That was my thinking going into this. And of course, the question becomes of this, as I ask you guys, if you ever watched this match, whether it was for the first time or as a rewatch, did you guys enjoy this? Did you really enjoy what we were gonna get in this match, in this Hell in a Cell main event. So that being said, when I finally watched this match, when after all the matches that we got in this pay-per-view, I'm sad to report I was very disappointed. I was very disappointed in this match that I watched for all of you. Then I'm about to dissect for all of you, or lack thereof, to dissect, because barely anything happened. Barely anything happened in this match. Like, all I can think of is that it took less than 5 minutes for Triple H to start bleeding, as per typical with the Triple H match during this reign of terror. Like, it took less than 5 minutes for Triple H to start bleeding when Shawn Michaels first threw him face first into the cell. So Triple H had this little gash on his head. And then you had Triple H spend 10 minutes attacking Shawn Michaels' back. Like, it was the same tactic that he did back in their street fight in SummerSlam, or the unsanctioned match back at SummerSlam 2002 in their very first encounter. But it's like, they really have to spend 10 minutes on that? And then after that happened, you get to Triple H escaping Sweet Chin Music, and then Michaels finally starts bleeding with 2 hits of the steel step. And even more, Triple H throws him around the cell face first and then starts scraping him like a cheese grater. And then remember how just like seconds ago, how I talked about how the game was bleeding less than 5 minutes into the match? Well, Triple H was like, okay, let's make it intensify even more. Make me bleed even more. Let me taste it, pal. He takes a chair shot from Shawn Michaels, and, well, he starts bleeding even more. So you go through all that for like 35 minutes. I think 30 to 35 minutes. And the crowd is just like, get on with it. Get on with it. And I'm going, get on with it. Like, all we've been getting is like nothing. It's just them punching. It's like hard fists, like tossing them each other into the cell. Using the steel steps. I mean, I guess, yeah, that's, the weapons are fine and all, but it's like, be creative with it. Be something with it. Like, I didn't expect them that during this time that, oh, they're gonna go outside the cell because of injuries or whatnot. But still, like, be intuitive with it. Be something with this rivalry. They're not being intense enough with it. So the crowd finally wakes up when HBK hits his signature elbow drop off a ladder through a table, and it looked like Shawn Michaels was about to jump too high that he was gonna hit his head. It was like he jumps and then I hit my head and then I just fall flat. Because remember, during that time they didn't have the current cell height, like that's 20 feet tall. It was like the 15-foot one. So it was wider, but it was shorter in height. Now you have the shorter in width, but the taller one in height. So just something to think about there. But man, like, that was like one of the very few things that were highlights of this match. Because by the time you get to the 40-minute mark, they were clearly gassed. And I'll give them that. They went through a marathon out there. And when you get to the 40-minute mark, they trade finishers. Shawn Michaels hits a Sweet Chin Music. Triple H hits a pedigree. And on the second pedigree, Triple H was so exhausted to pin Shawn Michaels. And then the crowd was just like, please get on with it. And it took 2 minutes for them to get up. And then once they both got up, Triple H hit a third and final pedigree out of nowhere and slowly rolled his ass onto Michaels. And then once the 1, 2, 3 finally hit, that was it. They put the rivalry to bed in a very long Hell in a Cell match. 47 minutes of nothing. I mean, the match had its moments. Like, I'll give credit to Shawn Michaels. He did some great selling work on this. And then, of course, the blood helps everything with this kind of rivalry. And then the big elbow drop from HBK. And then, again, I at least appreciate HBK and Triple H for running that marathon for a very long time. But that match was way too long. That match was way too long for something that lacked a lot of creativity, a lot of intensity, not enough high drama, and big spots. Now, I didn't want them to go out there and die, or like try something that was going to injure themselves, like you see a lot of wrestlers do nowadays. But still, like, I'm not so sure why they decided to play it so safe that it was so boring. It was like it dragged on and on. Why did this have to be 47 minutes of a lot of basic stuff? Like, they should have been beating the hell out of each other. No pun intended. And just ramming each other into the cell. It's not going to do it. It's not going to do it for a lot of people. And making use of different weapons. Like, yeah, you had tables, you had ladders, you had chairs, steel steps. But this isn't TLCS. Isn't it TLCS, ladies and gentlemen? That's not going to be enough for people. So most of this match was just a lot of punching, kicking, laying around for what should have been an intense and great capper to this rivalry. But instead, this match didn't feel that way. Because, well, we've gone through a lot of bullcrap earlier with this card, and, well, we were certainly going through some here until like the last 5 or so minutes. Not good at all. Not good at all. And I also do question why Triple H had to go over HBK, because, you know, Triple H was the one that started this rivalry. Shouldn't have Michaels win this war? Oh, wait, then again, this was Triple H during the Reign of Terror. So he was like, I'm not going to quite put people over yet, pal. Not till like several months later. Not quite yet. I need to get stroking my big nose there just a little bit longer. But for all things considered, this was very disappointing. Like, this was like a very disappointing end to one of the most. I thought it was like a very interesting rivalry that I want to retroactively go back and watch, because, you know, I've seen their SummerSlam match, I've seen their Royal Rumble match, I've seen Armageddon. I thought those were really good matches in this rivalry, and their promos that they cut pretty damn good. But man, what a letdown! What a letdown end to this 2-year-long rivalry. And this cell match is like very disappointing. And yeah, I've seen, I get it. There's a lot of PG era matches that have been like redundant and disappointing. The other one being Edge and Finn Balor that I got to see live. But this one just joined my list of very disappointing, like, Hell in a Cell matches. Like, what a letdown. And that's just pretty much the moral compass of this pay-per-view. A very big letdown. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is just the cherry on top. Like, this very long match that just felt like a letdown. Now, to conclude on this match, like, I'm not gonna say that this particular modern day rivalry, which has yet to start, but if they ever do, it sounds like a hot take. It's gonna draw a lot of like question marks, eyebrow raising. If they ever do Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan inside of Hell in a Cell, if they ever get to that point, I just hope they don't make it as disappointing as this. They really need to live up to the hype of that rivalry. So I'm just saying, like, I know that's gonna raise a lot of eyebrows, but who knows? So anyway, let's talk a little bit about what happened after Bad Blood 2004. So Triple H and Shawn Michaels were asked by Jim Ross to, you know, shake some hands there. But Michaels was attacked and injured by Kane. Injured mean, you know, he wasn't actually injured. He was just written off TV to attend to an injury. Speaking of Kane, he began a well-known for good or bad to some people, a storyline with Lita, who claimed to be the father of her child, because during this time Lita was pregnant, and she also feuded with her then boyfriend Matt Hardy. So they had that match at SummerSlam, but that's a story for another time. Meanwhile, for Triple H, he moved on to get another chance at the World Heavyweight Championship. No surprise there. But he lost at Vengeance, that pay-per-view, thanks to some accidental interference from Eugene, whom he started his own story with after this pay-per-view as well. Meanwhile, for Randy Orton, he would lose the Intercontinental Championship to Edge at the Vengeance pay-per-view the next month as well. But like I said earlier, bigger and better things would soon await for the future legend killer. Actually, the legend killer, that soon would be a future legend in his own right. So overall, Bad Blood 2004. It's not a terrible show, but man, this was so much of a letdown. It's like a lot of the card is like it drags. It really dragged. And it was like the two things that saved this show for me from being very bad were the World Heavyweight Championship match and the Intercontinental title match. It's like those are the two only things that were like actually interesting, especially the Intercontinental Championship match. Like that really surprised me a lot. But I hate to say it, everything else dragged this show down, especially that Hell in a Cell match. Like I had expectations for that match and it really let me down. And if you like that match, that's cool with you. But that Cell match, that let me down like a lot. And I guess it's safe to say I could consider it overrated because of how long it went. It was way too long, and how there was barely anything happening for the most part. Funny how they tried to bring back that event in 2017, but instead they came up with that very selective logo with greatness of fire in it. You know, basketballs of fire. Yeah. I think they made the right choice in not bringing back Bad Blood after this year. Yes, it was discontinued for ECW One Night Stand in 2005, but I think they made the right choice in not bringing back Bad Blood after this because, yeah, they could take the letdown for that Hell in a Cell match for that. But overall, I wouldn't recommend this show to any filthy casual fan out there. Like, not by a mile. But anyway, if you watch this show, whether you were in 2004 or you're looking for something to binge, yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. But whether you watched it in 2004 or you watched it very recently, let me know your takes, your comments on the 2004 edition of WWE Bad Blood in the comments below on YouTube, or send me a message on social media, on Instagram or on X at Very Cold Lasagna. Let's start a conversation about Bad Blood 2004, especially that Hell in a Cell match that I can say now safely is overrated. But anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. I'm your filthy casual host, DylanLasagna, wrapping up episode number 200 of this icy yet spicy sports podcast. Until the next one, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And as always, peace out.